Flax Network. Flex on everybody.
Oh, yes, everybody. Wake up on a fantasy football morning. Yes, Alan Seslowsky is here. I am Flex Matt. We are the Flex Network. Catch Alan at ALANSES Low Sky. What is going on, brother? This is officially, I mean, come on. Have you gotten some drafts in? How many drafts?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. But yeah, no, it's good to have you back doing this on the regular. You know, the fans have been asking for you. Shane and I have been doing some off-season work, and you certainly came in with a bang last week. I've only heard amazing things about, and I watched your interview with John Hansen. What a good moment for the Flex Network in general to nab a big fish. So I'll get to the question you just asked me, but congratulations on doing a really good interview with the guru John Hansen, man.
Yep, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Check that out if you're listening to this and you haven't heard it. Go into the Flex Network podcast feed or the YouTube feed and watch that. A lot of good info, actionable info for fantasy football.
From the guru, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio's original. He's the OG, John the Guru Hansen. I mean, come on. That guy was on the Flex Network dropping dimes.
No, that was good. That was really good. And you know what? I also and again, we'll talk our fantasy in a moment, but I think that's really cool that guys that are godfathers of the industry, people with credibility, want to branch out and do some of these more niche podcasts that are growing. I think I've seen Matthew Berry all over the place doing podcasts. Like, I think that is really, really like smart to do. And that helps build the whole community. That shows me that those guys are interested in keeping the fantasy community alive and vibrant.
Yeah. And then some reject it too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
there's haters out there, you know, we can deal with that, but it's really nice to see the guys at the top turn that around, you know.
Right. Like, to me, it's like Matthew Berry is more like and he's knowledgeable. He knows his stuff, but I'm saying he's more of like the McDonald's, like, you know, everybody knows him if you're just getting into fantasy. And John Hansen is more like, you know, he's that In-N-Out burger. You know, everybody knows him, but it's more like underground, you know, like John Hansen, you know, so that would be still a major
deeps, the deep undergrounds.
That's right. But anyway, yeah, man, I've been best balling. I've been drafting since February nonstop. I've seen ADPs rise. I've seen ADPs fall. And that's going to lead us into some of our conversation today that, you know, when you've been doing best balls for a long time, you're used to getting certain players in like a specific round, and then when they rise, you almost feel like you can't go get them anymore. You know?
Yeah, you know, I've the fantasy atmosphere right now is buzzing. We are all buzzing, and my favorite thing to hear is the weekly show, the daily show, about Zach Moss. You know, it's like, oh, Zach Moss. I remember being able to get him in the 10th, 11th round. Not anymore. Not anymore, Zach Moss, but we might get into that a little bit later, says Lowski. But let's get this train chugging along with a softball. With all the positive news about Edmonds, Chase Edmonds. How does this affect Kenyon Drake's ADP in redraft, says Lowski? I know Kenyon Drake is your guy. Last year, you had him as RB. What was it?
13.
But at one point, you had him as RB 7, I think.
Yes. I'm talking right, correct. And then obviously when that was, you're talking about going back to last year, when he was ranked routinely out of the top 24.
Right, and then you hit the nuts on him. I mean, I think I don't exactly remember where he finished the season last year. I didn't have that note in front of me.
He actually finished at RB 13, considering he didn't do anything in the first 8 games. I mean, the last 8 games of the season, he finishes the RB 3 or RB 4.
Yes, and so you hit it right on the head, and that was a great prediction. Now let's predict this year. Chase Edmonds, go ahead.
I mean, just give me a quick take. You know where I am on Drake. I think he's a first-round player. I think he's a top 7 or 8 player. I've heard a lot of pushback on him, and just even before that, the Edmonds hype. Are you in on Drake, or are you more like, hey, if he's there in the second round, I'm taking him?
Yeah, so not in on Drake at all.
All right.
You know, I like the guy. I like him.
But not as a first round pick. You're not wrong. Okay.
Not as the first round pick.
This is, and again, I respect that take because, you know, yourself, a lot of smart guys like you that are saying that. So Without, it's not like a defense kit, but I'm just curious why. Like, what is the apprehension? Let's establish like a baseline of why no, and then I'll give you the quick baseline why yes, and then we could talk about how Edmonds affects him.
Yeah, so it really has nothing to do with Edmonds, and it
Right, that's
really
what I'm saying.
has, yeah, it has, for me specifically, it has everything to do with just how my drafts and how I want them to plan out. For me specifically, I'm getting really deep into tiers. You've heard about it a lot, and I have been subscribing more to that theory as I'm building. I put out my double E cheat sheet recently. Go check that out on Twitter at the Flex Network One. I had no volume on the video, so I got reamed about that.
Yeah, what was up with the no music on there? That's an easy ad.
Well, not as easy as you would think. Okay, Seslowsky.
I'm making a joke that it's an easy ad. I'm making a joke because, full disclosure, you'd asked me to help you, and I've just, now that I'm going back to working in a school, I've actually had no time, so that's why I'm goofing on you. But hey, just getting back to the original question here, like, I'm just gonna name a couple quick guys, Drake or Josh Jacobs for you.
Jacob. So that's where I was going. Let me continue this. I was on a river here. Okay. So in my top 10, obviously it's very RB heavy. I would not draft Michael Thomas until the decision at 12 is
I saw that. That's interesting.
Michael Thomas and Kenyon Drake, because that's the deciding factor. Now, I like Kenyon Drake in the second round. That's right. I would love that.
You like him at cost. You like him at cost.
Yeah. Oh, if I'm pick 11, pick 10, and that's what I want to transition these podcasts to. Redraft. We're done with rookie talk almost, so redraft. Yes, I love pick 10. I love pick 9. I love the idea that I might get Kenyon Drake coming back around.
Right.
Okay. And that's because people are going to be donkeys, and I'm going to see Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams in the first 12 pick, which is great because Kenyon Drake's going to fall back around to me. But can I give myself first round draft capital ahead of Austin Eckler, ahead of Josh Jacobs? Absolutely not.
Well, see, that's what surprised me a little bit, because you and I share a similar take on Eckler. Like, I think Eckler's a top 7 player, like, locked in, and I've seen him, it really smart, credible people have him outside of the top 20 picks. They think that, Phillip Rivers isn't there, he's not going to dump it off anymore. Like, I've heard all that stuff, but I was happy when I saw your ranking. I was like, oh, good. He's with me on Eckler here. Like, so to me, Eckler and Drake kind of profile the same way a little bit. A player that only did it for 1 year, and in Drake's case, a half a year. And they're the lead running back. They were both paid. They're locked in. That's what I'm saying. Why Eckler and not Drake? And a lot of people agree with you. I'm just curious why, because to me, I see them very similarly.
Yeah, great question. Great. Why? So Eckler, yes, he gets a down tick because of QB, but in my mind, that's actually a complete upside. When you've got a subpar quarterback, what do you want to do? You take the ball out of his hands. You don't want to be launching it down the field you want to dump off, you want to hand off, and you want to get him out of there. Okay.
So you agree that Eckler, a lot of projections have him as like 150 carries. I think he's locked into 200 carries, and that makes him a first round pick. So you agree with me that 200, he's not going to be a 250 guy, not a 235 guy, but he's a 200 guy, right?
Well, yeah, and it's opportunity cost too. Drafting Eckler means I can get his handcuff much, much later.
Who is the handcuff?
Josh Kelly. Okay. I'm comfortable handcuffing him versus having to really pay up for Chase Edmonds, and when you do that, not only that, but you got Kyler Murray, who's going to run the ball all over the field. He might snake 9 TDs this year in the running game, which could just hamper.
So you see it. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you said you see it as like a Josh Allen-esque sort of, like, or a 6+ rushing touchdown year.
I love that you had it buckled in your mind. Yes, Josh Allen, 9 touchdowns last year. Yes, I think that because,
Fair.
DeAndre Hopkins, Kirk, Isabella. I just feel like that offense is going to be great this year. And yes, outside of some breakaway runs for Kenyon Drake, I do feel like it might break down a little bit, causing Kyler Murray to do more with his legs.
See, I don't have, and I, you know what? That's right on point with my thinking. And I guess I'm just gonna have to look again at my projections after this podcast because I only have Drake for 7 touchdowns. I mean, that's fair, right? 7
in total.
7 rushing touchdowns, and maybe I think I have like 1. I think I put him for 1 passing touchdown. Like, you can't really project them for more than 1 or 2, right? So
I don't know. I think you could. I think
okay,
you could give him 4. You can give 4.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
It seems like a lot, but I mean, he is a pass catching back. That's why you would be drafting him in the first round.
That's where I was going. Because okay. So when Kenyon Drake, in the offseason, right before he was signed, he was going in like the 3rd round of best ball drafts. And then what happened was Arizona assigned him the transition tag, gave him the $8 million. So he's locked in for this year. Like, they're paying him like a top tier running back for 1 year. Next year is not guaranteed. That's what worked for that offense last year. So I don't think it's unreasonable to project him for like 70, 75 catches. Now, if you want to be conservative, 68 catches. And I think that is the money in the bank for him as a late first round pick. Is that, think about this, like, Zeke Elliott, we're probably going to project him for like 48 catches, 51 catches, right? Dalvin Cook, maybe 60, right? You're talking about an extra 20 catches. So that's like an extra, do the math for me. It's like an extra 4 touchdowns-ish. So that's where I think in PPR leagues, now this is PPR discussion, half PPR.
Of course.
Right.
You're in the other way.
Dude, Hansen said it on the podcast you did with him. He's pushing back to half PPR. I am very against that. I'm planting my flag. Like, I like PPR. My brain is calibrated to PPR.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, I think he said that because he's just trying to give that bridge quarterback to those single QB non-PPR leagues. I think he's just trying to make the masses accept half-point PPR as a stepping stone. Go ahead.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, so the PPR upside alone makes up for any deficiencies that Drake would have on the goal line. But listen, the market agrees with you. They do not agree with me. I thought I was making like a chalk pick in the Beat Chris List League, the $350 league that I do every year. I took Drake at pick 10 and the room laughed at me. And I was like, oh, like, I thought this was a chalky pick. And everyone's like, reach. All right. So, I'm in. And like I said, I could end up being wrong and look foolish, but that's where I am. So your original question was about Chase Edmonds. I already figured Chase Edmonds was going to be involved. So this only confirms what I already thought. So it doesn't change his ranking for me. What it does do is make me push Chase Edmonds from like an 11th round, like if he falls to me, to like I'm going to reach up in like the late 8th and get him, or the early 9th and get him. That's the only thing it does for
You would have to. Yeah. And so that's the thing, putting out the cheat sheet, Kenyon Drake was not in my first round, but that was just saying.
I get it.
Well, that was just saying if Michael Thomas doesn't inherently go off or Devontae Adams go off. If you're at pick 11 or 12 and two wide receivers have already gone off and you're staring down the barrel of a Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Kenyon Drake pick, and you went Drake, no problems at all. Just have to understand that your opportunity cost means that, like you said, you're going to have to reach a little higher for a Chase Edmonds. But to wrap this up, put a bow on it, the things I did like about Kenyon Drake was that he just came out and posted a smiling picture of himself and said, this is the face that you make when I win your fantasy leagues for you. And that actually moved him up the rankings for me, I will say, just off a post alone.
So no. So again, it's I'm either going to look really good or really foolish, and I'm willing to take the gamble. I don't know, especially in the NFFC. And again, we'll move on to the next subject. In the NFFC, it's a little different than like in our home league. In our home league, I may not do it because in the NFFC, you have to get first or second place to make in your league to make the playoffs. So getting in third place does nothing for you. And you admit Drake is a swing for the fences. First round play. Yeah. So all right. Let's move on.
Right. So your article for Roster Watch, follow them at Roster Watch. You are a contributor for Roster Watch and DFS
freelance contributor.
And you are not a freelance, but just a peer contributor at DFS Army. Of course, they're slaying slates, takedowns, but you talked about the secrecy of the Miles Sanders injury and the effect on his ADP. I think the secrecy is not as much of an importance as the effect on his ADP.
Well, you know what it is? It's like in the past, they've been like, okay, he has an ankle injury or a hamstring, or they're saying lower body, air quotes, lower body injury. What the hell is that? Like, let me ask you a question. Just start with a simple yes or no.
Are you a doctor?
Were you in on Miles Sanders as a first round pick, or to me, I was not? Oh, you were in. Okay.
10,000%.
Right. I was not, I was one of those. So we were opposite on that. But my point is, if it was like a hamstring, you'd probably be out. If it was just a leg tweak, you'd be in. I mean, that's my point, is that lower body injury with all the secrecy. How the hell you're flying blind when you pick Drake in the first round now, right?
Sanders, you mean? But
yes, sorry, Sanders. Sorry about that.
Let's talk about this for just a second. So two theories that I've heard this week about it. Number one, on the Guru's show, SiriusXM, he had said, "Hey, there's nothing that gets past today. You cannot have an injury of consequence without somebody finding out, somebody hearing about it."
Yeah.
Just doesn't happen. So
information is widely available in the palm of your hand.
Yes. And somebody's got it. If they don't got it, they're about to get it. But again, it seems either there's a secret cult trying to hide this news about Miles Sanders, or it's really not a big deal at all. Okay. Number two, Dr. Jesse Morse had him on the podcast before, had said that he had just came out with a sleeve on his leg. Now go ahead.
You were saying that you had Jesse on your, or what you said had him on the podcast. Who are you referring to? Talking to Jesse?
Jesse was on the Flex Network's podcast earlier in the year.
Got it.
Okay. So he's locked in. We got him for all of our injury questions. And I watched his video recently about Miles Sanders and Deontay Johnson, both seemingly having the same injury, both getting a little scared on him. But he thinks it might be a calf injury. Okay. Now with the calf injury, he talked about how if it was minor, you're 2 to 3 weeks, potentially with a couple weeks of lingering injury. But he says, don't be afraid of them at all. Still draft him where you would. If you're high on him, stay high on him.
That last part I agree with. The last part I agree with. Like, if you were high on him, stay high on him. If you were low on him, this only gives you reason not to be. So, but here is, again, I've adopted an edict, and I've borrowed this. I originally first heard it from Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Sports, and he said something that really seems obvious, but it resonated with me, and now I've adopted as my own edict. And that is, we're going to have so many injuries in the course of a fantasy football season. Don't walk into injuries. Like, don't take on injuries, because you're already going to have to navigate landmines. So why draft injuries, especially in the first round? So when there's so many, and this is what I said in the Roster Watch article, that there's so many other good, appealing, healthy options exactly the same time that Miles Sanders is going off the board. Why do you want to start your draft in a season where there's so much uncertainty with a question mark?
Yes. And my cheat sheet, I put it out pre-Miles Sanders injury news. In my next rendition of the cheat sheet, I am actually going to be having not only Dalvin Cook, but also Miles Sanders moving down, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Joe Mixon moving up. Both guys I will be selecting before selecting Miles Sanders and Dalvin Cook. Yeah. Moving on.
Yep.
Kerryon Johnson. You have said that the market is undervaluing Kerryon Johnson.
Absolutely. I mean, like, he's available in like the 8th round. It's crazy. I mean, I know, and listen, we're all guilty of rookie fever, right? You, me, we love our rookies. And DeAndre Swift was my pre-draft overall number 1 player, landing spot. You have to knock him down a little bit, but let's think about what we heard about Kerryon Johnson. I don't know if you remember, Roster Watch reported that during Kerryon's pre-draft process, he openly said, I am a committee back. I am openly. He was not like, hey, I'm not a workhorse. I function better in a 50-50 committee. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but more or less he said. We saw in his first 2 seasons when he was thrust into the primary back role, he didn't hold up. He didn't hold up. It didn't work out. So in now they drafted Swift, who profiles similarly to, I have trouble saying that word, to Kerryon Johnson. Swift in his college career averaged about 15 carries a game, and in his senior year, or this last year, not his senior year, I think it was closer to like 19. So now you pair someone like Swift and someone like Kerryon Johnson, and now you have the perfect attack. So I think where everyone is looking at this as more of a Jonathan Taylor versus Marlon Mack, who I've come around on and realized Jonathan Taylor is just going to push Mack out of the way pretty quickly.
Yes.
I think that the situation in Detroit, I'm seeing it a little differently. I think that these two backs will thrive in their respective, let's call it 15 touch role. And Matt Patricia is going to want to run the football. They have, the passing game is fine, but I think they're going to be a running based team. And Matt, do you buy into that Kerryon Johnson could be just as productive, especially in the first 6 weeks, as DeAndre Swift, and you have to pay like an 8th round pick?
No. No, I do not. Not at all. Okay.
What do you think of the case I made about them getting 15
I love
touches?
the case. And let me, I have a little write up here about this. Let me just, okay. So we talked about first, I want to go back to Kerryon. Okay. Kerryon wants to be a committee back. Like that's what he wants.
That's where he says he thrives.
Okay? Right. But that's what he wants. Okay. What other team can you go to being a Kerryon Johnson and just say, no, I just want half the shares of your back. Now, great, because Matt Patricia was interviewed last year after Kerryon Johnson got 20 carries in a game, and he stated that's plenty enough for a running back. 20 carries. Okay. To me, he's Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards is great, lightning in a bottle, but for fantasy, you can't draft Gus Edwards. You can't sit or start Gus Edwards with any confidence weekly. Why do you want to draft somebody like that in the 8th round? Let me see who else who else is by Kerryon Johnson here.
You're saying
Zach Moss or Kerryon Johnson? If you're deciding between Zach Moss and Kerryon Johnson, I'm going Zach Moss.
Yeah,
okay?
I think. Here's where I differ a little bit. Is that I think Kerryon Johnson's good. Like just even if you just watch, I'm not a tape grinder this time of year. I've done like my tape is a different time, is the February rookie era. But to me, when you go back and look at Kerryon Johnson, he looks like he's gliding, and dare I say, very Le'Veon Bell-esque, where he makes these cuts. He's smooth now. He's upright, which probably. He's tall for a running back, which is probably why he suffered some injuries. But I see Gus Edwards as more of a non-pass catching back bruiser type, whereas Kerryon has the pass catching skills. He's very similar to that. And listen, the market again agrees with you because nobody wants anything to do with Kerryon Johnson. They basically have discarded him in drafts. But I'm just not. I'm seeing that Kerryon is probably. I would take him over those 5th round running backs like David Montgomery, David Johnson. Like I would take him there, but I don't have to, obviously.
Ew.
I know.
Are you saying you would take Kerryon Johnson in a committee over David Montgomery?
Yeah.
You don't have to. I get it. Tiers. This is what I'm saying. Tiers. Yeah. And I understand that. And that's where you have to find value in fantasy football. Absolutely. That's how you win. But Seslowsky, how dare you? Sir, here's my problem. You don't draft DeAndre Swift. Okay, is Kerryon Johnson, in your mind, going to be the 1st and 2nd down running back for this team?
Again, that's a fair question, but I don't
answer the question.
Well, then yes. But hold on a second, but it has a little asterisk next to it. I don't think that there's a traditional 1st and 2nd down back. I think it depends on the game situation. I think both guys. Oh, look, I will take Johnson on my carry-on luggage every day. That's funny, Clipboard Jesus. I like that. Good comment. But I just think that both of these guys have a similar skill set. Swift is a better player, so Swift will have right. But I'm just saying. I think either one of them can play on any down. I think they're both. Okay,
but why would you draft Kerryon Johnson over somebody like a Zach Moss, that when Zach Moss's number is called, it will be as the complete lion's share 3-down running back, that can win your fantasy league, versus you're going to draft a Kerryon Johnson who will inevitably rest in as a 3rd down running back?
Yeah,
why?
You know, I mean, so you don't like Singletary at all, then, right? I guess
It's not that I don't like Singletary. That's
right.
not it.
Well, that ties
It's
into the
just,
Zach Moss, right?
well, kinda, but
Right.
I'm just saying that Zach Moss has more upside. When you're drafting Kerryon Johnson and Zach Moss, it's
Yeah.
going to be as your RB4.
Yeah.
Correct? So RB4,
well-
why do I want somebody that I'm going to start over a Leonard Fournette?
Yeah, I think those two backs are great comparison. Like, because they're going to be they project to be good for different reasons, right? Like if you're in on Kerryon Johnson at cost, you're looking for catches for PPR, value. Whereas Zach Moss, you're probably banking on those high value touches. You could see a situation where he has like 9 carries, but 2 of them are touchdowns in a specific game. So yeah, I mean, banking on touchdowns is always a dangerous game, but not at that cost. So I could see the case for either one of them, and I like them both. I don't dislike Zach Moss. They're just for different reasons. One again would be for the high value touches, the other one for the PPR value.
I love this. Okay, we've already spent 25. We were supposed to we've only on to question 3 here.
Well,
geez, this is how it's going to roll.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. Next one.
Okay, next one. RBs that are stinky.
The stinky cheese RBs,
The
right?
stinky cheese RBs in the top 50 picks that nobody likes, but still they are must drafts. Todd Gurley, James Conner, Leonard Fournette, David Montgomery, who you just hate. You just hate David Montgomery. You just said it. Rewind the tape. And David Johnson, Seslowsky. Why do you hate all these guys, Seslowsky?
Well,
why do you just hate these guys?
Do you agree that these are the hold your nose guys in like the 3rd and 4th round? Like, you're not happy to take these guys, right?
Do you agree that you're actually missing one RB from this group, and that is the RB to draft, and that is Chris Carson?
Right. No, I don't see. That's what I'm saying. I think Chris Carson, it does not belong in this group. I believe that. Right. I mean, on a recent Roster Watch podcast, Matthew Berry was on and told Alex that he thought Chris Carson should be the 23rd overall ranked player, which makes him a 2nd rounder, and you don't have to take him there. And I agree with that. Like, the market is missing on Carson. You don't even have to fight the room for him in the 3rd round. You can get him with the last pick in the 3rd round almost every time. So I'm with you on that. These are the ones that you just read off, the Gurley, Fournette,
James Conner, Leonard Fournette.
I don't put Conner in there because but I know I wrote him in there
He's kind of that first guy. Him and Carson, to me, kind of almost don't belong in that tier.
Exactly. They have the same.
And I'm with you.
Yeah. So, but the other guys, like if you're in the 3rd round and you're like, oh my God, I need a running back. Or if you're in the 4th round, you're not happy to take Todd Gurley. You're not happy to take David Montgomery or David Johnson. You're just you're taking those guys based on that they look good on paper to start the year, but it's so bad. It's stinky cheese.
Stinky cheese, says
yeah,
Lowski.
and stinky cheese never gets better.
Let's get through this question. Just pick one, okay? You're staring down the Chris Carson, not Todd Gurley, the James Conner, the Melvin Jordan, okay? Those guys are gone. You're faced with a Gurley, Fournette, David Montgomery, and David Johnson. Who are you picking?
And I can't. You're saying I'm locked into a running back pick here. I can't pivot, right?
Yep. Can't pivot. You got to go that you went 2 wide receivers, and this is your RB1.
Right. Okay. I mean, the Montgomery's the volume play, right? David Johnson, I see the case for him, but I just don't want him because my fear with him, and I'll answer your question, and I'll do this quickly, but my fear with him is that everyone's like, oh, they have to use him. Bill O'Brien traded for him. He's going to have it. But my fear is they're going to use him like they did Carlos Hyde, just run him up the gut, and he's not going to be useful for fantasy. So I'm mostly out on him. Even though there's been a lot of anti Leonard Fournette, there's a lot of risk with him. I think Montgomery's the safest one, the one with the highest floor there.
Montgomery also has some upside, assuming it works itself out somewhere. So yeah, I would say I'm actually liking David Johnson a little more because you're right. I mean, Carlos Hyde, 1,000-yard rusher,
but it was never useful. It was always it
doesn't matter if it's useful. The production is there. It's going to be there. If he stays healthy, then that offense should bubble up a little bit better, having some pass catching opportunity. Deshaun Watson, I mean, it's like the most valuable draft piece this year because everybody's sleeping on him.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about him, but here you got Montgomery, even though you just said he was the stinkiest cheese.
Well, yeah, you're not. That's my point. Is you're never happy to draft those players. You just kind of do it because you need a running back, which is, and I understand why, but it's just never a good reason to pass on Kenny Golladay for one of those running backs. It's you just don't do it.
Yes. Okay. Derrick Henry, our guy, the Flex Networks guy from day one, Derrick Henry. Seslowsky, you had potentially theorized that he has an argument at 4. I'm going to stop that question right before it gets started. I'm actually going to say the real argument is at 5. There's no way that anybody can make an argument over Alvin Kamara. But I would say starting at 5, Seslowsky, sell me or don't sell me on why Derrick Henry could be your 5th overall player this year in redraft.
Yeah, by the way, the case against Alvin Kamara, which you're right. I mean, you got to take Kamara at 4. I agree with you there. But I mean, with this Taysom Hill stuff, like he's going to get snagged at the goal line. I could see another low touchdown day, but I mean, the guy, Alvin Kamara, 82 catches in 3 consecutive years. So yeah, but the case for Henry, even in PPR, where know he's probably going to get 20 carries, 20 catches. I mean, they just locked him up for 2 years, and they went to the AFC Championship game featuring him. And I just, there's no higher floor, higher ceiling player than Derrick Henry in the he will not fail you. Alvin Kamara, when he has those low touchdown years, it feels a little icky. And Dalvin Cook, the obvious is the injury concerns, specifically at the end of last year when he was popping his own shoulder back in. He wasn't there for you when you needed him.
Holdout, potential Alexander Madison.
There's the worst, but I just don't see any downside for Henry. And I think that the Tennessee is smart enough to want to get Henry involved more in the passing game. I could see Henry doubling his projection. Any smart projection is about 25 catches for him. I could see him actually hitting like 38 or 40, and then he could be the RB1. So
that's a little bit much. But last year, with having a minimal amount of opportunity in the catch, or the reception area, he was RB5.
Right.
Overall.
And that's with like 1,500 yards and like 12 touchdowns. That's my point. That's how important PPR is, everyone. So if you're a PPR and if you're not for Austin Eckler, if you're not for Kenyon Drake, just look, Derrick Henry had like an all-time rushing and touchdown season and still was only the RB5. That's how important PPR is. Now, that was basically getting back to your original question. That's the case. The case is if Derrick Henry, if the coaching staff can just get him a few more catches, we're in business. So what I'm saying is it's defensible at pick 4. You and I both agree we wouldn't do it, but I could see in a half PPR league, it's a no-brainer, and in full PPR, it wouldn't make me blink if somebody took him at 4. It's fine.
Yes. Well, let's go over this. So he would need 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns again.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is completely not only in his range of outcomes. I would say that's like his floor. Really. Come on. Come on. Christ. This guy is going to be fed the rock.
Yeah.
Okay. And you cannot stuff the box anymore with AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith. Okay.
My favorite.
But get this. Touchdowns are definitely the most unreliable stat. 16 touchdowns again is the only reason that he was put. Now, here's the thing. RB5 overall, the guy had 5 fumbles. Okay. And what separated RB5 to RB3 was like 5 or 6, 7 points. So if he maybe just holds onto the ball and doesn't have 5 fumbles, you might see him as RB4, something like that.
This is I often say this to Shane on the podcast. I say, Shane, you can't. It's hard to win your draft in the first round, but you certainly could lose it. And I think that Henry solves that problem. You are not going to lose your draft because you drafted Derrick Henry. You're actually. I think he's got the highest floor of any. Including Saquon Barkley. He's got a higher floor than Barkley. Other than Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry has the highest floor of any running back in the first round.
And fantasy football should, first and foremost, be fun. And the Titans are definitely a fun team to watch. as you're watching Derrick Henry monster off.
Do you want to
The
hit?
next, the
No, I'm
next
saying.
question. Hold on,
I was gonna say, do
Ronald
you want?
Jones.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ronald Jones, 5th round pick. I'm out on Ronald Jones. Get the hell out of here. Just doesn't light my fire. Do you got something quick on that?
Yeah, just if you want to take Michael Thomas as the 5th overall pick, and then the value dictates taking receiver after that. So if you've gone 3 receivers in a row, I've seen people go Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, and then like Odell Beckham 1, 2, 3. You're Ronald Jones is a perfectly defensible pick in the 5th round for a 0 running back team.
So yeah, let's condense this. DK Metcalf. Okay. I want to give a little time to this.
Go ahead.
ADP of 45 ahead of Chark, Cortland Sutton, and Catch TMC. Okay. Hate it, love it. Do you think it's right where he should be? ADP of 45.
Yeah, I mean, all the receivers that you just named, they're all in the same cluster for me, not a tier. Like a tier is, like you said, we all know what tiers are. It's where you cut off. I think that those guys are, if you could rank them, they would all go across the same line for different reasons. So sure, why not? If that's the guy you like, I don't have a case for DK Metcalf over DJ Shark.
So I have a case, says Seslowsky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am Mike. What's going on, brother?
Yeah,
yes.
Some good activity in the chat today. Clipboard
yes.
Jesus with some good comments. We see you, brother. We see you. Keep them coming.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Okay. Local beat writer was on the Guru show again. I hastily say that was due to us, but there is so much noise about the Seahawks this year in the passing game. You have to draft both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf before the top 60 picks. And yeah, sure, DK Metcalf, could definitely go off for 1,000 yards and do his thing. Tyler Lockett could definitely do that too. But we just forget that Pete Carroll is not going to change his scheme. He's 68 years old. They want to run the rock all game long. Now, what I'm being told by the beat writers are that we're forgetting that Greg Olsen and Will Dissly and the fastest wide receiver that Pete Carroll has ever had, and that's from his mouth, Philip Dorsett. The ball will be spread around with it first going to Chris Carson and then whoever's open. Russell Wilson is a liberal quarterback. So they are scheming upside down, left and right to get people open. It's not going to DK Metcalf first. That's not happening. Okay. If we're drafting DK Metcalf before DJ Shark this year, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Shark's a better play.
Shark's a way better play in an offense that wants to feature him versus being a complete run first offense wanting to spread the ball around as the focal point. So out on DK Metcalf at ADP. Let's go right into Tyler Lockett or Hollywood Brown. So if you're at ADP now, I like Tyler Lockett a little bit better because he's the cheaper option. But now going from ADP of 51, Tyler Lockett, to Hollywood Brown at ADP 63, it's a no-brainer to if you're sitting at pick 58 to pass on Tyler Lockett if he's there and go upside with Hollywood Brown. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood Brown, I think his ADP is a little tricky because in your home league, he's probably gonna go in like the 7th round, and in a sharper league, or just say like a league with more experienced players, someone's gonna pay up for that upside. Someone's gonna pay a 5th round pick for him. So depending on what kind of a league you're in, and now you're asking in a you're in enough leagues with smart players where you're gonna have to make the decision which guy you like in a vacuum, because I don't think that Hollywood Brown specifically, his ADP means anything because it's all over the place. It's just an average of the ESPN home leagues and the NFFC pro leagues. So, any smart player that wants to pay for upside is going to spend a 5th on him.
Yep. Okay. Kenny G, ADP of 25 ahead of Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, DJ Moore, and Juju Smith-Schuster. I am out.
Yeah. I mean,
Kenny Golladay.
You're a reasonable guy. Odell Beckham is the only one of those guys that could finish as the wide receiver 1, and Kenny Golladay will probably finish as a wide receiver 1, meaning a top 12, but he doesn't have wide receiver 1 overall in his outcomes. We know Odell does.
I think we're also sleeping on Juju. I mean, yes, last year you were talking about Juju Smith-Schuster as a dynasty wide receiver 1 over everybody. Not even close.
The wide
Okay?
receiver one.
Yeah, like nobody even close to Juju last year. And just because a failed quarterback year, people are going to be saying after this year in redraft that, man, I should have been higher on Juju.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. That's entirely possible. But the pushback on that is that Deontay Johnson produced in these adverse conditions. I mean, Juju was abominably bad. I mean, he wasn't just like, hey, it didn't work out, Ben wasn't there. Like, I think he finished as like wide receiver in the 60s. So I think that's the concern. There's depth, but yeah, I mean, of course, the upside's there. He's still young enough. So I agree. He might be that, oh my God, I didn't want him. How come I didn't see a pick? I agree with you there.
Yes, thank you guys for saying the content is on fire, because we are on fire. Yes, as we help you gain your fantasy football championship victories. Yes, Seslowsky, the last piece of this podcast has come. I asked you to give us 4 players, 1 QB, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, and 1 tight end that you are completely flexing on your home leagues, your sharp leagues. 1 guy where it might be at ADP, it might not be at ADP, it might be a value, it might just be your guy, but give it to me, Seslowsky. 4 guys, starting with the QB.
Oh, sure, yeah, the QB. I know it's not like a. People are saying wait on QB or go super early. For some reason, I keep finding myself the value is on my 5th overall ranked QB, Josh Allen. You can routinely get him in the 8th through 11th round. So I have him in basically every league. Josh Allen, to me, already proved he could be the QB1 overall. The last 6 weeks of his rookie season, he was the QB1, and he showed he had a tremendously high floor last year. All accounts are that he's looking good. He's most people's QB8, QB9. So Josh Allen is the QB I'm taking in every single league. In your running in the wide receiver position, I've well documented this that Will Fuller is an auto pick for me in the late 6th, early 7th round. All the risk is priced in. There's no better. I mean, he's a guy that can win the week for you. He had 55 fantasy points against Atlanta last year. That tilt. I mean, that's literally where if you're like in 7th place and then Will Fuller has one of those weeks, you move up your team to like 4th place. Like it literally pushes you up the standings. So Will Fuller's auto click. Tight end, Jonnu Smith was the guy I've been targeting. I think he's the one that can jump into the top 8 this year for obvious reasons. He has all the boxes that you check. He looked good in his first year. He had a big step forward, and the tight end in year 3 is the breakout. So Jonnu Smith. And the last one is, you said, what position am I missing here?
RB.
RB. I mean, late
the
RB.
Stinky cheese.
No. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Drake and Eckler, but if you want something a little bit deeper, I'm with you. You sent me a trade offer in our league for Damian Harris. I think he has a chance, but I've just grabbed Jerick McKinnon in the Mike Shanahan offense. I that could easily fail.
Play the song.
I know.
Jerick McKinnon.
I know. I like him in like the 15th round.
He hasn't played in like 14 years.
Yeah,
this guy.
He took a pay cut to stay with the team, and the pass catching running back. I think that we're going to see a Matt Breida like season from Jerick McKinnon.
Is he lining up at wide receiver this year, Jerick McKinnon?
No, he's the 3rd down pass catching back. And we know ACLs don't all heal at the same pace. For him, it took 2 years, not 1 year. So now he's back. He took a pay cut to stay there, and you can routinely get him in the last round, 15th round. And we know that the San Francisco running back pass catching role is valuable, and he's so cuttable. And if he doesn't get any targets or any production in week 1 and week 2, he just cut his ass.
Oh my. Hold your nose. Hold your nose. You're drowning in the water with the Jerick McKinnon. Okay, my QB.
Yeah, I want to hear yours.
My QB this year, Joe Burrow. Okay, listen. Gardner Minshew had 3,200 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 344 rushing yards, and 0 touchdowns, and was QB 19. Okay. Tom Brady was the final QB1 at 12 overall last year, and the differential points wise was about 2 fantasy points per game. Joe Burrow had 5 touchdowns rushing in college.
So in one QB league, you're waiting for Joe Burrow.
I'm punting the QB in 1 QB leagues. I'm taking Joe Burrow
as your starter.
as my starter with the very last pick in your draft, because there's no way with that offense he's not gaining 3,200 yards at least, with at least 344 rushing yards. Now he's going to have upside of 3,500 passing yards with maybe, let's just say, 350 rushing yards, but we're going to tack on some rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
Okay, so I really like Joe Burrow. Reports from camp is that he's just a strong leader. And again, those guts, we talked about it with John Hansen, the stuff you cannot put down as a stat line is the player's will to win, the other team's will to play for your QB1. It happens in Seattle. It happens all over the place, and I just think Joe Burrow can have easily a Gardner Minshew season from last year, which would just put him a baseline QB19 with upside to get to that QB 12-13 range, which again is only 2 fantasy points away per game from QB1. So why would you even try? Just draft Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
okay.
In a 1 QB league, no problem. You draft him, doesn't work out, you cut him, you pick up Tyrod Taylor. I agree. It's a good play. You load up on the other positions, and then if it's a non-super flex league, there's no cost. I like that pick.
RB Zach Moss. We talked about it earlier. I just think for the pick that you're getting, you're drafting him as in the 8th or 9th round as your your RB4. Potentially you miss out on him. Great, no big deal. But if you get him, I just feel like he's going to have a lot more usability in that offense than we really think or can see right now. If there was a play or preseason games, I think you'd see him really push in for some first team reps there.
You see, by the way, in the chat, Clipboard Jesus said Herndon. I like that pick too for tight end. That's a good one. I'm in on Herndon as well. Actually, last night I had a few whiskeys, but I did move Herndon up significantly from tight end 27 where he was a few weeks ago. I pushed him up to 15 or 16. So I'm with you there. Sorry, I interrupted you, Matt. Go ahead.
Nope,
2 more players.
You're quite all right. As my tight end, I've always been a Blake Jarwin guy. I'm still high on Blake Jarwin. I'm gonna remain high on Blake Jarwin, but after hearing all the reports from Seattle beat writers, man, any one of the Seattle tight ends in the very, very, very late, Will Dissly, we seem to forget, had just a monster before he got hurt. They're going to play a lot of 2 tight end sets. They're going to feature the tight ends this year. Either one of those guys will be great. We know that tight ends, if you're not going up for the top 6 of them, 5 of them, why even draft one at all in the first 10 rounds?
Yeah.
What's the point? So don't do it. But this Seslowsky, get ready. Get ready for the league winner this year.
I'm putting my seatbelt on. Hold on.
At wide receiver, take a guess, Seslowsky. Who's going to win? That could be the 12th round. It could be the 13th round at wide receiver.
Who's going to win me my league?
Who's going to win you your league?
Do you want me to take the guess what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Or do you want me just to let you roll it out?
Nope.
I'm going to guess that you are going to say Preston Williams.
Wrong. Would you like another guess?
Yes, I would.
Okay, keep going.
Is he a rookie?
No.
Okay. Is he a second-year player?
No, but see, you just took Paris Campbell off the table. You knew you were going to vote Paris Campbell.
Yeah. All right. So
it's not Paris Campbell.
What year is he? How many years has he been in the NFL? This is
his
what
is Sammy Watkins.
Yes. Good one. I don't know how many years. I don't know how many years he's been there. 8 years
in the league or something.
Yeah. No, but I what's it called? I'll let you do your Samuel, but I love that. I have gotten him in every best ball over the last 3 weeks. I reach up to the 10th to get him.
Listen, if Sammy Watkins is mistakenly not on your redraft teams this year, you are false. You are incorrect. You are the stinky cheese team of the league. Sammy Watkins will win you money this year.
Yeah, this starting wide receiver in a Patrick Mahomes offense going in the 12th round.
Yes.
Doesn't compute.
I have heard so much recently that the dynasty wide receiver 1 is Tyreek Hill. Why in the world is Sammy Watkins undervalued. Like, why? The guy can play.
We know why. We know why. Because of the injury history.
We don't know. I mean, okay, we got it. But the guy is good. The guy is a good receiver. He's reliable. I mean, come on. What if Travis Kelce goes down this year?
Took a discount to stay with the team.
Discount? He's a discount better wide receiver than half the league.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, he wants to be there, and he's playing for a contract. If he wants his real NFL career to continue, he needs to perform this year. And what better setup is there?
He is good.
Yeah, no, that was a good pick. I agree with that. I totally forgot about Sammy Watkins. Again, I haven't forgot about it while I'm drafting, but I didn't even think that's a really good pick. That's a really good pick. All right, man. Let's wrap here because I have a conflict. I have my wife goes live at this time, and she's staring at me like, you're talking too loud.
I get it. He is at ALANSES Low Sky. Catch him writing for Roster Watch, freelance. Also a member of DFS Army. I am Flex Matt. We are the Flex Network. Catch us again.